We're at the Mahalia Mullins Cabin in Vardy Community, Tennessee, and we really appreciate the caretakers. They're doing some repair work here today, and this building's actually shut down, but they opened the doors for us and let us document this for Kentucky Tennessee Living, and we really appreciate that.
Sometime in the mid-1800s, the cabin itself was made from popular hand-hewn logs. It had dovetail joints. The cabin had 4 rooms, 2 upstairs and 2 downstairs. Each side of the cabin had a room with a fireplace that was constructed from native mountain stone. In the middle of these 2 halves of the cabin was a dog trot. This area was used for resting from hot weather and for doing laundry, and it was also kind of a safety feature of the homes, as one side of the structure caught fire, then the other half would have been saved. After Mullins' death, there were other families that occupied the cabin over the years, so there were structural changes that were made to it. During the 1920s, the cabin dog trot was enclosed to complete the look of the house and add an additional room to the cabin. When the cabin was removed from the site, this enclosure was removed. By the 1990s, the cabin was owned by Dan Williams. The location of the cabin was on top of Newman's Ridge, which is located behind the cabin. This area was not accessible by car. William donated the cabin to the Vardy community with the caveat that the cabin would be moved to its current location. The reconstruction and relocation was complete by the year 2000. The artifacts that were found inside of the house are donated by the people of the community. Most are descendants of the early settlers and the Vardy School alumni. Their donations included household furnishings, cooking utensils, and tools seen in the cabin from the 1800s and early 1900s.
There's an old chamber pot. And this is a rope bed. The rope bed was donated by Ralph, Pete, and Nell Green and family. And what you did is you strung rope along the little holes on the sides, as you can see. And these ropes, how tight you wanted your bed, how firm you wanted your bed, is how tight you made your ropes. And then you would put a goose down mattress or other type of mattress down to lay upon it to make it softer. This is the great-great-grandchildren of Mahalia Collins Mullins and children of Ted and Golda Collins, Maine, donated the wheat cradle, which was used by local farmers to harvest their wheat and hay. You can see the washboard and the kettle that they used to boil their clothes in to wash them. And upstairs is the loft. Maybe we go up 1 or 2 steps to see up there. Not going all the way up. You can see the loft. And this is where the children and other
This
people
is
come and
interesting.
stay.
This is horse tack, and these things here are called hames, and they're making canes now with them hames on it like that. And what that is, it's the reins will go across them and keep them from getting tied up. There's a different type of hame right there, and another one. But I thought that would be interesting. Right there is something you don't get to see a lot. That is a grass cutting machine, or just a cutting machine. That blade going up and down with spikes on it would be lowered by the man sitting in that seat, and it would cut grass with 2 blades that would operate like a jigsaw, moving back and forth. That system was pulled by a horse, and a set of gears on the wheels actually drove the cutting machine. I've actually seen my grandpa operate one of those, and he had one of those right up until he died.
Let's see if we can go through and get some pictures. This is a beautiful bed. This says Wedding Ring Quilt, donated by Ruth McPherson Kinsler and Angela V. Kinsler. Created from many small scraps of material, placed and quilted by Ruth. As a young student at Blackwater School in Virginia, Ruth remembers coming with her class to attend field day at Vardy. That's a trumpet corn planter. And it was customary to see farmers planting no-till corn in the late 1800s, early 1900s. The Vardy and Newman's Ridge settlers often shared this corn planter, which was donated by the great-great-grandson of Mahalia Collins Mullins C.M. Collins and wife Sally. Hogs were an important product of the 19th century, as were raised meat and lard to feed the farmer, but also could be sold at market for cash. The wood-burning stove was used to cook and bake food, but also served as a furnace and hot water heater for the farmhouse. Horses working in the fields. Horses provided the main source of field power for farmers in 1900. Horse-drawn machinery allowed farmers to expand the number of acres under cultivation. the farmhouse, inside the farm kitchen, this wood-burning cook stove and mason jar made for preparation and preservation much easier. Horse grinding the burr mill. By 1900, most farmers used draft horses for hard labor. Farms would not have been successful without the aid of horses. And we're going here to her cook stove. This is Molly Goins and Dosha Collins Miser. Let's see if we can get them closer for you. And there's Mahalia Mullins and some of her children. Right there. Here's our cast iron skillets. Big Haley, her name was Mahalia Collins Mullins, they said. The last years of her life were spent on her bed. Though the whole valley and parts all around, no heavier lady was there ever found. So heavy she couldn't walk over the floor, and she was far broader than her entrance door. The lawmen ignored her, yet everyone knew her business was in dealing illicit brew. Indicted quite often, but never brought out. The doors were too small for the lady so stout. They said Judge Tyler was looking for fun. He'd needle the sheriff with his special pun. He'd wink at Sheriff Ed's and then ask with a smile, quote, "Just when are you bringing her in for a trial?" unquote. Now there was a rumor, some vowed it was true, Judge Tyler would often partake of her brew. They took out the fireplace when Mahalia died, the most logical way to bring her outside. I'm ending this story, there isn't any more, for she passed away at the age of 74. Lon H. Adds. Lon Adds, who wrote this poem, is the grandson of Sheriff Washington Adds, who was the sheriff when Mahalia was indicted. Judge Alonzo Tyler was the judge. Lon Adds was named for him. Judge Tyler's daughter Elizabeth taught at the Vardy Community School. And this is George Washington Adds, Sheriff of Hancock County around the 1880s to 1890s. Adds attempted to arrest Mahalia Collins Mullins during her heyday of moonshining. Unable to do so, Adds reportedly told the Judge Tyler, quote, "She's catchable, but she ain't fetchable," unquote. Photograph courtesy of his grandson, James Adds of Maryville, Tennessee.
This is the Mahalia Mullins Cabin. The barn and shed shown at the original site on Newman's Ridge before the cabin was moved and restored at the present location. Here's what they were talking about, the middle section being closed up in this photo right here. That section. That was a porch between this section and this section of the cabin, and it was closed up.
This was the original site, what it looked like before they moved it.
Be sure to stop by and see the Mahalia Collins Mullins Cabin, located in Vardy Valley, Tennessee, near Sneedville. We would love to thank the caretakers of the cabin, as they granted us access even though the cabin itself was closed to renovations. Thank you for supporting Kentucky Tennessee Living as we discover the hidden history of Kentucky and Tennessee.